Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, Walter. You're just an
aardvark.
Okay, then.
One of the most obvious yet ignored messages of The Big Lebowski is that being right doesn't mean that you're not an
aardvark.
In fact, they most often go hand in hand. The endlessly quotable 1998 stoner comedy is smarter than it looks, and like most stoner comedies, probably smarter than most of us fans. It's hard not to love Jeff the Dude Lebowski, who stumbles through a kidnapping mystery protected by his blurry philosophy.
The dude abides.
But it would be just as easy to call him out for his faults, a half-smart, jobless grifter who gets played by just about everyone else in the film. As the other Lebowski, a rich philanthropist, also named Jeffrey,
That's your name, dude.
yells at the dude,
Your revolution is over, Mr. Lebowski. Condolences. The bomb's lost.
and we're meant to take this insult as distasteful, especially as it is hurled just as the dude takes advantage of Mr. Lebowski's poor managerial skills to steal an expensive Persian rug from right under his nose.
The old man told me to take any rug in the house.
Mr. Lebowski's insult is undercut as the dude walks away with the very rug he had come for. We smirk, clearly on the bum's side, even as the movie demonstrates time and again that the dude is hardly a hero, not in his ethics, intellect, or bravery. He does earn our envy with his charmed life, like a very slovenly James Bond.
Jeffrey,
Bond?
love me.
To put the dude into perspective, he bowls with two very different men, Walter and Donnie. Donnie is a sort of meek bowling messiah who's never seen throwing anything less than a strike. Until that fateful night when he gets a tap and dies of a heart attack. Donnie is a perfectly inoffensive soul, and you know what? Donnie is always wrong, like all the time. He's detached from the main thrust of the story, the dude's weird adventures surrounding the Big Lebowski's wife Bunny, who has allegedly been kidnapped. And as Walter correctly, rudely tells him,
So you have no frame of reference here, Donnie. You're like a child who wanders in the middle of a movie and wants to know...
Walter,
he mistakes Vladimir Lenin for John Lennon.
it's like Lenin said. You look for the person who will benefit and, you know...
I am the walrus.
And even then is wrong because, according to John Lennon himself,
You know what I'm trying to say?
I am the walrus.
the walrus was Paul.
Well, here's another clue for you long. The walrus was Paul.
Walter, however, is almost consummately correct throughout the film, and he is just as consummately an
aardvark.
From a dude's standpoint, that is simply a recognition of his situation at the time. Walter is insisting on factual arguments in an awful way,
We do enter the next round robin. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
when the more immediate question is if Bunny's life is in danger, and what the dude needs to do about that. But taking a step backwards, the dude is pointing out a universal truth within the movie's world. Being right often also means you're an
aardvark.
Exhibit number 1, a severed toe. Hearing the dude's situation, Walter immediately assumes that the rich man's wife's kidnapping is fake.
aardvark.
Oh, yeah.
He callously risks Bunny's life on this assumption, refusing to deliver the ransom and risking a bloodbath by attacking her nihilist kidnappers with a machine gun. Shortly afterwards, the dude confronts Mr. Lebowski with Walter's theory that Bunny has not in fact been kidnapped, and is using the situation to extort money from her husband. In fact, Walter and the dude are mostly correct. Bunny is actually in no danger. But the dude delivering this message to Lebowski becomes a surrogate
Aardvark.
for Walter. Lebowski has been given a severed toe with Bunny's nail polish on it. Walter rejects this evidence as quickly as he had rejected the kidnapping story.
That wasn't her toe, dude.
Again, Walter is right, and he delivers the truth in as uncomfortable a way as humanly possible.
You want a
Yes.
toe? I can get you a toe.
Walter,
Hell, I can get you a toe by 3 o'clock this afternoon with nail polish.
Horrifying all of his fellow customers at the diner. Exhibit number 2, Walter's undies. Going back to the ransom money, Walter decides to rip off the alleged kidnappers by replacing the ransom with a suitcase full of his own dirty undies. This endangers both Bunny and the dude's lives, of course.
they're gonna kill her, Walter, and then they're gonna kill me.
Dude, that's just the stress talking, man.
And he gets them nowhere, except that Walter was right again. The ransom money suitcase was full of scrap paper, not $1 million, and was worth just as much as Walter's dirty laundry. He's right, and he could have killed 2 people if he'd been wrong. Thankfully, the only thing that gets killed is the dude's car. Exhibit 3, Nihilism Isn't an Ethos. From the beginning, Walter exhibits no fear of the nihilists.
No, Donnie, these men are nihilists. There's nothing to be afraid of.
And he's probably right. Again, they'll throw a ferret into the dude's bathwater, set his ruined car on fire, and sacrifice their girlfriend's toe, but they are no match for a 50-something overweight nut job when it comes to a fight. Walter's disdain is largely ideological. He dislikes the Viet Cong and the Third Reich, but he respects them at least for having an ethos they were willing to die for.
The man in the black pajamas, dude. Worthy for an adversary.
I mean, say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos.
Yeah.
His grudging respect is, of course, ironic, since he is a staunch Jewish convert
I told that crowd 1,000 times I don't roll on Shabbos.
who gets prickly around any racist vocabulary.
Also, dude, Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature.
The dude is crass in response to Walter's politically correct rebukes.
Walter, this isn't a guy who built the railroads here. This is a guy.
Again, being right does not keep you from being an
Aardvark.
Exhibit 4. Vietnam Mattered. Walter's defining trait, shown in the bowling alley and at his friend's memorial service, is an inappropriate focus on what happened in Vietnam.
Lady, I got buddies who died face down in the muck so that you and I can enjoy this family
All right,
restaurant.
I'm out of here.
Walter showcases himself as a self-indulgent victim repeatedly in the film, using his ex-wife's dog, bowling technicalities, and faulty logic to justify increasingly violent outbursts. All of his outbursts are extra-legal and shine a spotlight on Walter's rather blinded obsessions. But PTSD is a real thing, and separating your reality from everybody else's is nigh on impossible. The movie plays this for laughs, but comedy is always 60% absurdity, 40% truth. And John Goodman sells his nonsensical behavior like there's no tomorrow.
You're entering a world of pain, Walter.
He's right. We should not forget those who gave their lives, many without much enthusiasm for the cause. But compartmentalizing trauma and the lives of those not experiencing life at your pace is a serious challenge. I'm sorry, this video just got really dark. Counterpoint, Walter is occasionally wrong. The things Walter gets wrong. Larry Sellers, the teen who stole the dude's car, is no criminal mastermind. The Corvette Walter destroys is not evidence of Larry's guilt, nor of what happens when you meet a stranger in the Alps. Oh, and Lebowski actually was disabled. Even an
Aardvark
can't be right all the time. Lebowski is right. My theory doesn't entirely apply beyond Walter, but it should be mentioned that the movie's true villain, the titular Big Lebowski, also suffers from not being wrong, and just as an
Aardvark.
he correctly susses out that the dude is an amateur grifter, and though the dude bold-facedly steals a rug from the house, Lebowski also knows that the dude is just dumb enough to be his patsy in the ransom exchange.
You figured, oh, here's a loser, you know, a deadbeat.
Well, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Sure, he's shaken up to see Bunny's toe show up in the mail, and he may not be quite tough enough to let his wife get carved up when he realizes she has not, in fact, kidnapped herself, but he's a half step ahead of the dude.
Well, yeah.
But my theory holds in that while Mr. Lebowski is generally correct in his assumptions, he's also insufferably condescending and racist.
Parla usted inglés? Some Chinaman took them from me in Korea.
This movie can be read a lot of ways, but one important lesson is that right doesn't always make right. Anyone with half a heart would rather spend more time with the clueless Donnie or directionless dude than with Walter or Jeffrey Lebowski. They're not right, but they're also
Aardvark.